It started as a harmless prank on a quiet autumn night, but what happened next turned our world upside down and left us questioning everything we thought we knew about safety and strangers. When I was just 14 years old, my closest friend Lucas invited me over for a weekend alone at his house. His parents were out of town, leaving the big, creaky old house on Willow Street completely empty. I rode my bike over, locked it behind the garage, and slipped in through the back door, excitement buzzing in the air. We spent hours immersed in every video game Lucas owned, from soccer matches to intense battle simulators surrounded by empty snack bags and spilled soda. The clock edged toward 9:30 p.m. when we decided to spice things up with prank calls. I was up first. I dialed random numbers without much thought. On my fourth try, a deep, gravelly voice answered with a curt,
"Hello?"
Lucas was chuckling behind me, and I couldn't help but laugh too. But then, the man on the other end went completely silent. Trying to break the awkward pause, I blurted out, Sir, can I borrow one of your car tires?" The man's voice dropped even lower.
"What's your name, kid?"
I hesitated, then said, "Jake." Without missing a beat, he said,
"Are you sure it's not Lucas?"
The room went cold. Lucas's face strained of color. We hung up immediately, but the question haunted us. How did this stranger know Lucas's name? Our caller ID only showed Dad, and Lucas was too young to appear on any public records. Suddenly, the front door handle began to jiggle. Someone was trying to get in. I peeked through the cracked window and saw a tall figure standing motionless on the porch, eyes locked on us. Panicked, we darted to the kitchen and realized I'd forgotten to close the back door. As I moved to shut it, a shadow slipped inside. We crept upstairs, hearts pounding, and hid beneath Lucas's bed. The intruder methodically opened every door, his footsteps growing closer. He checked the closet, then moved toward the bed. I held my breath, muffling Lucas's shaky breathing. Then, without warning, the man yanked Lucas out from under the bed. Desperate, I grabbed a nearby screwdriver and plunged it into the attacker's side. He howled, staggering back just long enough for us to bolt. We fled into the dense woods behind the house, the man's footsteps thudding behind us before fading away into the night. When we finally reached the house, we called the police. I flicked on the backyard light and there he was, lurking at the edge of the trees, watching us before disappearing into the darkness forever. Even now, years later, I still don't know how he learned Lucas's name or what his true intentions were. But that night changed everything. Sometimes, the most innocent games can awaken the darkest dangers lurking just beyond the door. Sometimes, the scariest intruders aren't breaking down doors, they're already living inside your walls, watching, waiting, and hiding in plain sight. A few months ago, my wife and I hit a rough patch. We argued more than usual, and one evening, the fight spiraled out of control all over something as trivial as the bathroom sink. Her yelling wouldn't stop, and I just couldn't take it anymore. So, I called my longtime friend Derek and asked if I could crash at his place for the night. Derek's house was massive and old Victorian mansion on Helmwood Lane with creaky floors and shadowy hallways. It had 3 guest rooms lined up side by side, but Derek only ever used one. I took the first guest room, thinking it would be a quiet refuge. Around midnight, I started hearing strange noises coming from the room next door. Soft thumps, like someone tapping on the walls. When I mentioned it to Derek, he brushed it off, saying the room was locked and just stored some old boxes and personal stuff. I tried to shake it off and went back to bed. But then, the tapping grew louder, and I thought I heard a faint whisper like someone calling my name. Heart pounding, I stormed into Derek's room. This time, he took me seriously. Together, we went to the locked guest room next door. Derek fumbled with the key and finally opened the door. The window was wide open, curtains fluttering in the cold breeze. The closet door was ajar, and drawers were pulled out and ransacked. Several valuable items were missing. Before we could react, Derek dashed to the third guest room and unlocked it. Suddenly, a shadowy figure leapt out the open window and disappeared into the night. We bolted outside, searching the yard and nearby bushes, but the intruder was gone without a trace. Back inside, we found something chilling. Blood smeared on the bed sheets and a butter knife stained crimson. The closets were stuffed with trash bags filled with stolen belongings and discarded items. It became clear someone, or maybe even a group, had been secretly living inside Derek's guest rooms for over a week. Squatters? Drug addicts? We'll never know. They were never caught. And every time I hear a strange noise now, I wonder if they're still there hidden in the walls, waiting for their next move. Some memories never fade, especially the ones that make you question what's real and what lurks just beyond the edge of sight. It was the summer of 2013 when I had my very first sleepover. I was only 9 years old. My friend Ethan lived in a sprawling old house on Maplewood Drive, famous in our neighborhood for its enormous basement. That night, we played video games and told ghost stories until nearly 2 a.m., sprawled out on the worn mother couches. At some point, I must have dozed off, but I woke up suddenly to the flickering glow of the TV. The room was bathed in a pale, eerie light. That's when I noticed it's something impossibly tall standing motionless in the far corner near the basement stairs. It wasn't a person I could recognize, just a towering, shadowy silhouette that seemed to stretch all the way to the ceiling. I couldn't make out any features, only the overwhelming height and the way it seemed to absorb the dim light around it. Then, without warning, the TV abruptly shut off, plunging the entire basement into complete darkness. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure it would give me away. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination. The next thing I remember is waking up to a blood-curdling scream from upstairs. Ethan's mother was crying hysterically, and his father was frantically tearing apart their bedroom, searching for something or someone. There were no signs of forced entry. No footprints, no broken locks, nothing. Years later, Ethan confided in me a secret his mom had shared with him. She had once seen a tall, dark figure standing silently at the doorway of their bedroom. I've never forgotten that night in the basement. I'm certain that shadow was exactly what she saw, an unexplainable presence that haunted their home. Even now, whenever I hear a strange noise in the dark, I wonder if that tall shadow is still lurking, waiting silently in the corners of my mind, and maybe, just maybe, in the corners of the world around us.